Okay, hi everyone. I'm Serena,
And I'm Angus.
and we are recording a lecture bite today targeted towards Easters for all novice teams. Hopefully, you'll find some helpful advice here about prep, how to improve, and how to navigate Easters in general. But also, if you're not a member of an all novice team, hopefully, you'll be able to take some helpful advice away from this presentation as well. So, the first thing we wanted to talk about is what is the point of Easters? And a little spoiler here is it's really not what you think. Firstly, what is Easters? It's a national tournament that's held in different cities every year. And this year it's held at the University of Sydney, which is really exciting. And it's a pro-am 3v3 format debating tournament, which means each team can register a pro debater and two amateur debaters. But obviously, you can be a team of three novice debaters, and that is totally normal and fine. And the key of Easters is really improving and learning, which means you really shouldn't be overthinking your results, overthinking your speaker points, etc., including in the prep season. It's all about how can you improve, have fun, get better. And importantly, it's a national competition, which means it's a really valuable opportunity to meet people from all of these other states and universities and make friends. And I think that's something that is really rewarding and I enjoy a lot from majors, whether that's national or international, because you just get to meet so many awesome people and make lifelong friendships. I'll share with you guys some great advice I got when I was doing Easters. The first is that if you go into a competition with the single goal of winning, the overwhelming likelihood is that you will come away disappointed. And that's because there's so much more to a competition that makes it worthwhile. It's the friendships, the improvement, the fact that you get to do a hobby that you enjoy, you get to travel, maybe to different states and countries just to do an activity that you find quite fun. And that just means that you really shouldn't be putting way too much pressure on winning or breaking or anything like that. Because there is just so much more to a competition that makes it worthwhile. And the second is actually from a tweet. It's that your debating will just improve when you experience life and read widely than if you go off and you watch a million ADC debates a day. And that's something that I've really benefited from in terms of my Easters and debating journey as a whole, because it is very easy to get caught up in the grind set and forget that you're doing an activity that you chose to do because you enjoy it and you have lovely friends that do this activity with you. So the takeaway is just to have fun, make friends, improve your debating, and get the most out of the experience. With all that being said, Angus is now going to talk a little bit about how to improve.
Yeah, so similar to what Serena just talked about in terms of Easter's not being a grind set, you should take Easter's at your own pace. And importantly, you should have a conversation with your team about how much work you want to put into improvement at Easter's because people have different lives, different work schedules, different uni responsibilities. And so everyone will have a different approach to how much time they can spend on improving at Easter's. But I want to important caveat before I get into improvement, you should not underestimate your chance to improve. You could do more debates in the Easter season than you did through all of high school debating or through multiple years of high school debating. One prep comp could be 5 to 7 debates. That's a lot of experience you can get in just a small amount of time. So everyone, no matter how inexperienced you are at the start, can improve a lot at Easter's. So even if you don't have much experience and you want to improve a lot, you can. Don't underestimate that chance at all. So, in terms of how to improve, I've got some do's and don'ts. In terms of do's, first of all, how to get smarter, I guess. As Serena said, yes, there is resources on this channel in the ADC which you can use and should use, but I would just read broadly, read the news, read fiction, read nonfiction. Knowing more about how the world actually works, I think, is way more important than knowing like too much about how the mechanics of debating work. I won many debates from reading the news as opposed to being out debated in terms of like structure or rebuttal and stuff like that. With that in mind, though, how can you improve your debating skills? First of all, don't just get personal feedback from judges in a very passive way. Make sure you're asking questions. Judges will watch tons of different debaters and speakers across the competition and prep comps. So they're just going to give you very generic feedback if you don't ask questions. Make sure you're asking questions based on what you want from judges, not just what they want to give you. Secondly, try and focus on a few single skills to improve as opposed to generally upskilling. If you try and do everything, you'll fail at all the things. Try and pick a couple of things you think are the most important to improve. Thirdly, and most importantly, it's really important to reflect actively on debates and competitions as opposed to just doing lots of debates and competitions. This could be the form of team meetings. And when you're reflecting with your team, make sure you're as honest about yourself and others as possible. Easters is a team activity. It requires good and honest communication. If something is not working for you on the team, in prep, in debates, in your speaker position, whatever it is, speak up about it. Be honest about it. And similar to that, make sure everyone is contributing to the case and to those reflections. You have three people on the team for a reason. Everyone brings different knowledge areas, experiences, and perspectives, and they're all useful. If someone is not speaking up as much, bring them in as much as possible. That will make everyone improve more. And finally, be flexible with speaker positions. People get quite attached to being a third speaker from high school or a first speaker from high school. That is not how it works anymore at uni. You should try multiple positions. You might find you're better at something that you didn't expect you're good at. As for my don'ts, a couple of strong takes. First, do not matter file. For those who do not know, matter filing is like we put information into a Word doc about different knowledge areas like law or IR or feminism or whatever. This is useless, in my opinion, for Easters and takes up lots of time. As Serena and I have already said, read widely, read the news, but don't waste time matter filing intensely and don't discuss matter filing. I think it's quite cringe. Second of all, don't worry about speaker scores. Speaker scores are a quantitative measure of a point in time. They don't measure how much you're improving. Both me and Serena topped the novice speaker tab at Easters last year, but we're not close topping any tabs at the pre-comps. So don't worry about them. Focus on your own qualitative measures of improvement. And finally, don't worry about your place in the contingent or other teams in the contingent. Trials are quite random. So the numbers that emerge from trials in terms of team rankings are also quite random. Focus on your own improvement. People will improve or not improve wildly differently at Easters. Don't compare yourself to other people in the contingent.
Awesome. So the next portion of this lecture is on how to navigate prep. So we'll talk about general prep structure, how to maximize your ideas, and how to maximize your time. In terms of prep, obviously, most of you will know how prep works. And so this is targeted at specific tips on how to allocate time rather than trying to reinvent the wheel. In terms of general prep structure, you'll brainstorm, download with your team, agree on a case, and then you'll write it together. That part is pretty straightforward. What I will say is that you should really try to make the most of the prep season. This looks like trying out different prep strategies in all the debates that you're doing, whether that is on how you want to allocate your time, how you want to assign responsibility in prep, how you prefer to communicate ideas to each other and help each other to write your case. All of those things will vary between teams quite immensely, and so you should make the most of all of the debates that you'll be doing in the lead up to Easters, and even adapting as you go within the competition as well to try out those different prep strategies and see what works for you. Personally, I like to allocate more time to brainstorm and download because those are the portions where I find that a lot of really unique ideas come out. You have more time to think things through. It means that your discussions later on and your case writing are going to be more streamlined as you move on as well. So I find that personally very helpful. Secondly, then, is how to make the most of your time in prep because it really does go by quite fast. The first thing is delegate. You have three people on your team and that means that you have three different minds kind of working together. This can look like a variety of things. Maybe you want to have different people thinking about different arguments. Maybe you want to have one person kind of thinking more about what the other team might run during brainstorm. But a way that I like to use this a lot is as you're writing the case together and you get stuck, for example, on a mechanism or an example for an argument, asking one person in the team to think about that as you continue to write the case, that's going to help you become really efficient, but it also helps you have a little bit more time to develop those ideas as well. Again, as I've already mentioned, I think having more brainstorm time leads to better efficiency later on. You've thought things through really clearly. And that can sound unintuitive because oftentimes you want to leave as much time as possible for the case later on. But having that brainstorm time is really, really helpful, pays off in the long term. Thirdly, is just on compromising. Oftentimes, you all will have really great ideas, and you may have disagreements over whether something is going to be something that you want to prioritize, whether something sounds convincing, whether it's intuitive. Maybe it doesn't make sense to one member of the team. That's when you really have to remember that intuitive, well-explained arguments win debates. It's not going to be life or death over which ones you run, and you should really just compromise to try and save time. And that's something you work out in the prep season. How you guys like to communicate, how you guys like to, when you have disagreements, how do you navigate those as well? So really don't get caught up in kind of petty disagreements in prep because your time can go by so fast. Finally, is on how to idea max or maximize your ideas. Again, make the most of brainstorm time because when each individual person is thinking of arguments and ideas, that is when you can have the most kind of contributions to preparation time. If everyone starts speaking immediately, you will kind of start going down the same train of thought and you miss out on some really valuable insights. Secondly, is that you should be writing the case, which is the first speaker speech, together. And why I say this is that you really want to be aware and contributing to the case as a whole. It means, for example, some people like to have the case said out loud as they write it. Some people like to talk out loud as they write the case and have their team members contribute mechanisms and examples and ideas on whether this sounds intuitive or whether this is underexplained and whether you need to add a couple more things there. It's really, really good opportunity to have those light bulb moments in preparation time, um, generating those really good ideas. Finally, is just to not overthink your case. Proving an intuitive claim well is just as good, if not better, as having like 12 mechanisms for every complicated argument that you think of. Especially in Easters, sometimes there will be topics that don't know a lot about. For example, there was a topic about fishing licenses last year that me and my team had no idea about at all. But you really have to remind yourself that you can just prove an intuitive claim about this. You can apply general principles and you can use your common sense to come up with an argument that is intuitive and explained well, that oftentimes will be far more successful than a really complicated, over mechanized argument. So if you think about it, the judge may not know everything about this topic either. They're listening to the debate, they're probably also confused. If you can just give a well explained, simple argument, that can often take you a really, really long way. All right, how to beat pros.
Cool. Yeah, I'm going to talk about how to beat pros or reppy speakers at Easters. To be clear, there are lots of seminars on this channel and others which deal with how to get better at debating in general. This is going to focus on specific advice on how to kind of adapt your existing skills when you face reppy speakers at Easters, people with more experience. To be clear, these people are beatable and you should not be scared of them. You have to back yourself. Upsets happen all the time at Easters, and you have to have a mindset you can beat these people when you face them. What is my advice? Three things. First of all, be super adaptive. If you're responding to the pro, usually if you're third affirmative or third negative, you'll need to write a lot of your speech quite late because the best version of the cases or the best responses will come out at the pro. And that means you need to be able to change your intro, your priorities, your structure, your responses very quickly, or write a larger portion of your speech later in the debate. And they may sound scary, but it is much better to have a less polished and more adapted speech than a more polished and less adapted speech. That otherwise you'll end up responding to a version of the case or defending a version of your case that's no longer live in the debate. So be super adaptive, be more willing to write more, and just ditch stuff later in the debate that becomes less relevant. Second of all, for similar reasons, you want to be extra charitable. This is especially true at third affirmative when you have the pro speaking after you, often at third negative. Because again, the pro is going to give the best responses to your case and the best version of their case. When you're responding to their case before the pro, you need to make sure you're responding to the best version possible of their arguments. Don't waste your time responding like they didn't prove things or didn't mechanize things sufficiently. Don't respond to weaker versions of their case and dismiss them. Respond as charitably as possible. Otherwise, you might be caught off guard and your speech will be largely wasted. To be clear, being adaptive and charitable are good things in debating anyway, and you should do them anyway, but they are especially true when responding to a reppy speaker or a pro. Thirdly and finally, don't be afraid to call out nonsense. Often pros, when they're facing all novice teams, will rely on lazy intuition pumps or responses because they sound confident and because they think they'll beat you easily. Do not be afraid to call out their nonsense. I found it to be very useful and persuasive to judges to start my speech calling out the laziness and giving examples of it while rebuilding my case. That is persuasive to judges. Matching their confidence is essential when you want to face these reppy speakers. If you do these three things, you'll greatly increase your chances of causing an upset at Easters or making these debates closer, making your speaks better.
Amazing. Hopefully you guys were able to take away some helpful advice from this video. As a reminder, Easters is obviously a great introduction to the university debating circuit. It's a chance to make friends. It's a chance to get into a hobby that hopefully you'll find very rewarding, that'll benefit a lot of your skills later in life as well. So really don't overthink it. Don't stress out too much. Just focus on having fun and improving. And if you, yeah, Angus.
And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or Serena. Me and Serena were lucky to have older debaters and mentors during and before our Easter season last year who helped us with a lot of the things that you saw in this presentation today, as well as many others. Please lean on the debaters in your society who are older and also in the circuit generally. We are here to help you and make sure that you have a successful and fun time at Easter's. Good luck, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.